We're live. I'm Valerie Bronte. I'm the coordinator of the Solidarity Spear Study. I'm a member of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. And I'm here with Rose Letulle from Oakland, California, who's also a member of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement that's building in Oakland. And today is the December 1st Solidarity Spear Study Live. And our article today will be The Point of the Spear from the November 2018 Burning Spear newspaper, entering its 50th year of uninterrupted publication. So I want to say Uhuru and welcome. Everybody, as you're joining the live stream, please share it to your timeline. Invite friends, comrades, people you think might be interested to check out the study. And share it to groups. Share it to groups where you think there are white people that need to hear this, because that is where we organize. We're organizing in the white community for reparations to African people under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party as part of the strategy for African liberation. So again, I'm Valerie Bronte from Uhuru Solidarity Movement. This is the December 1st Solidarity Spear Study Live. Our special guest is Rose Letulle of Uhuru Solidarity Movement in Oakland, California. And as you're entering the study today, please share it to your timeline. Invite your friends, your family members, comrades that you think might be interested. Share it to groups where you think white people who deserve to hear this would be interested in checking out the live stream. So today we are studying The Point of the Spear, which is on page 8 of every monthly issue of the Burning Spear newspaper. It is the section where Chairman Omali Yeshitela, leader of the worldwide Uhuru movement and the African People's Socialist Party, has the centerpiece article in every issue of the Burning Spear. So I want to say Uhuru to Jake Scott, tuning in from Washington. Uhuru Jake Scott. Uhuru Evan Garner, tuning in from work in Asheville, North Carolina. Uhuru Evan. Uhuru Kever, joining us from Orlando, Florida, Central Florida. Uhuru Kever, we have 9 viewers. When we get a few more viewers, we will begin. But again, I want to introduce myself for the 3rd time. I'm Valerie Bronte of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. Okay, so the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, like I said, is led by the African People's Socialist Party. The African People's Solidarity Committee, formed in 1976 by the African People's Socialist Party, is the main body of solidarity organization with Uhuru Solidarity Movement as its mass committee. So we were consolidated in our current form about 8 years ago, but we've been called the Reparations Brigade, but we are part of the African People's Solidarity Committee. Our principles of unity are that we are formed and led by the African People's Socialist Party. Secondly, African people have the right to lead their own struggle. And thirdly, we work in our own white communities to win material solidarity, reparations. So the African People's Socialist Party is led by Chairman Omali Yeshitela. It was founded in 1972 by the merging of 3 organizations: JOMO, the Junta of Militant Organizations, the Black Rights Fighters from Fort Myers, Florida, and the Black Study Group of Gainesville, Florida. And it leads the struggle of the African working class and the oppressed masses against the United States capitalist colonial domination, colonialism, U.S. imperialism, all those manifestations of oppression that are rooted in colonialism. So the party recognizes that the particular character of the oppression of African people in the U.S. is colonialism as well. Domestic internal colonialism, and that Black people are not a race, they're a nation of people whose birthright is Africa. So when we say African people, we're talking about all people everywhere that they're nationals of Africa. So the Burning Spear is the voice of the African Revolution. It's founded in 1968 by JOMO, entering its 50th year, and it is the voice of the African Revolution the perspective of the African working class. It is the materialist political philosophy of African internationalism as founded by Chairman Amalia Letulle. So it's that perspective of the newspaper. It's not mainstream bourgeois media that has a white ruling class, white nationalist perspective. So it's print and online in its 50th year. We're really excited about that, but it's how white people are able to understand the world through the understandings of the African working class. We can't come to these conclusions on our own, which is why we have the Solidarity Spear Study live. And again, this is Rose Letulle of Uhuru Solidarity Movement in Oakland. Happy to have her as my co-presenter today on the Solidarity Spear Study. I want to say Uhuru to Jeanette Cruz and Uhuru to everyone who's joined. Today's article is from the November 2018 Burning Spear, page 8, where you find the point of the spear. And Rose is going to start the article for us today.
Uhuru, thank you so much, Valerie. You're an amazing comrade, and thank you for inviting me to do this live spear study today. And I just want to say thank you to Chairman Amalia Letulle. He's an amazing leader, and we wouldn't be here without him. I also just want to mention that I'm a bit ill today, so so just excuse me if I need to cough or anything like that, or blow my nose off screen. And also my computer is new and it's not working perfectly, so if there's a delay or if I can't hear you immediately, Valerie, just know that I'm here and we'll work around it. All right, so we are not discovering the revolution, we are planning the revolution. The following is an excerpt from the completed political report to the party's October 6th through 12th 7th Congress, titled The African People's Socialist Party Vanguard, Advanced Detachment of the African Revolution. Today, the African working class has its own party. We are not discovering the need for revolution, we are planning the revolution. We are not struggling to learn all the lessons that were so late in coming to us in the 1960s. We are prepared and spreading the theory and practice of revolution throughout the African world, at home and abroad. We must keep the important truth in mind today. The state of our party is influenced by the requirements of history. We are the party where once there was none. We are the advanced detachment of the African working class of the first colonized African nation. Our class and our nation are better off as a consequence of the existence of our party. The character of our party has been shaped by intense struggles within our ranks throughout the US and the world. We have engaged representatives of the imperialist ruling class in ideological and political struggle. We have experienced military assaults on our headquarters and suspected assassinations of one of our most beloved leaders. Our phones have been tapped and our news organ has been intercepted, spoiled, and otherwise made unusable. Our chairman has experienced jailings, prisons, and extreme harassment that included slander and police beatings. From the platform, we have initiated some of the most important anti-colonial political campaigns in the US. The history of the parts in the 1970s that the white left and other liberals wanted to turn into a bourgeois feminist campaign was fought by our party as a struggle against colonial violence instead of a campaign supporting the right of a woman to self-defense. While the latter may have won greater support, especially from white feminists, it would have not advanced our struggle against colonialism and for Black power. It would not have provided an explanation for the oppression of African women as colonial oppression, just as the oppression of African men and children is colonial. In 1977 in Atlantic, Georgia, we used the Desi Woods campaign to launch the first significant pro-independence, anti-colonial mass mobilization since our military defeat in the 1960s. We organized the first mass march in history in Plains, Georgia, the hometown of then U.S. President James Earl Carter. We took militant demonstrations into Hawkins. Colonialism was so pronounced in Hawkinsville that some white plantation owners had their own private jails used to punish Africans. The Desi Woods campaign also established the conditions for much of the work to organize the African People's Solidarity Committee, APSC, in 1976, 4 years after the founding of the party. Uhuru.
Uhuru, can you read the next section and I'll read the last two sections?
Oh, sure, sorry. The party creates reparations within the formation of APSC. Excuse me. The African People's Solidarity Committee, whose work revolves around material solidarity from the white community, has become the most outstanding manifestation of the correctness of our party's revolutionary reparations demand. Never before has the African Revolution extended itself into the colonizer national population. Never before have the white ruling class and its minions had to defend themselves from the demand for African reparations from within its own previously sheltered and generally comfortable position on the pedestal of African colonial oppression. For the first time in history, the demand for reparations is more than a demand. It is actually being accomplished right now by the African working class through white people of the colonizer nation, whose unity requires submission to the leadership of African people through the advanced detachment, the African People's Socialist Party. It confirms our theory of the role of white people of the colonizer nation based on the history of capitalist development resting on a foundation of the enslavement and colonization of African and oppressed peoples of the world. Under our leadership is a critical strategy to overturn the colonial capitalist social system. Uhuru.
Rose, appreciate you for being on the study today. I'll take over the section. The party has been a consistent force fighting for the liberation of African people. Our party fought mass land reform battles in Oakland and waged major political contests with the domestic neo-colonial government officials in defense of the African working class there. In 1986, we responded to the police U.S. government bombing of African militants of the MOVE organization in Philadelphia with a National African Liberation Day demonstration under the slogan, "Reinforcements are on the way." We were determined to demonstrate to Africans in Philadelphia that they were not alone. We denied the vicious imperialists and neocolonialists their victory in terrorizing and silencing our struggle with the horrific murders of 11 men, women, and children of MOVE and the bombing demolition of an entire colonized African community. The work of our party has never been limited to abstract theoretical screeds. We are practical revolutionaries, and we recognize that the importance of this theory for our revolution is its testing and validation by practice. As the advanced detachment, we are always developing our theory through practice. All the work we have done, and this is only a hint of what we have accomplished, is evidence of the efficacy of our theory. As we have repeatedly stated, African internationalism is a theory of practice. Since the 1980s, we have led incessant struggles against police murder. In Philadelphia, and we're central to campaigns in London against police violence against Africans. When our organizers were arrested in Sierra Leone, West Africa, and we successfully mobilized an international public response that forced the neo-colonial state to retreat. We have organized multiple independent economic institutions, making us genuinely self-sufficient and creating a true foundation for dual and contending power in the hands of the African working class for the first time since the Marcus Garvey movement 100 years ago, and much, much more. The activity of our party since our 6th Congress in 2013 has been characterized by the same rapid revolutionary pace for which we are known. Our party is the only organization with a real revolutionary work ethic. Everyone sees us as the ones who actually get things done quickly and efficiently. Black power is being achieved even today. Much of our work today is centered in the Black Power Blueprint Project in St. Louis. Although hundreds of different personalities and organizations descended on Ferguson following the uprising of the militant young working class Africans, the African People's Socialist Party is the only organization remaining from the lot. The TV cameras, money, and ruling class media are now gone, along with most of the personalities and organizations. However, colonial oppression still defines the lives of the African working class. Now we are there in St. Louis, the advanced detachment of the colonized African nation, the African People's Socialist Party. The Black Power blueprint represents a major anti-colonial advancement that has implications for the development of the African anti-colonial struggle all over the world. We have remained in St. Louis, and we have organized a presence and movement among the working class of this community who has heroic resistance, has re-energized African anti-colonial consciousness in a way not seen since the 1960s, or since the 60s. Is Rose Letulle E Africa. And then there's a photo of the chairman. The African People's Socialist Party is not discovering the revolution, it is planning it, organizing and uniting African people from throughout the world to win African liberation. Uhuru.
Hello.
Chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, Chairman Amalia Shatella, our leadership, like just the, founder of the Uhuru movement, the founder of African internationalism. Rose, so glad to have you on the program, along with all of our participants, Kristen, Evan, Kever, Jake, Uhuru, everyone. Rose, I know that this article, I'm sure you found it as compelling and brilliant as I did. Like, it is so mobilizing to read, just the summation of the party's victories since, being at the forefront of the anti-colonial struggle of the Dusty Woods campaign. It just, it's so exciting. It's so exciting. And, I always enjoy the point of the spear. What did you think about the article?
Yeah, it's an amazing article. It's a great summation of the difference between actually, revolution is not something you discover. Revolution is not something that you have the privilege and the time to do on your own. It's not something that I think a lot of people really understand, especially in Oakland, who are really connected to ideas of anarchy. This article is great because it just really shows us that for 600 years, African people have been resisting colonial violence, and this is an ongoing planned structure, and this is an incredible organization, and it's really nice to be able to rest knowing that, like, I have leadership that I can trust, and I completely trust our leadership. In regards to the Desi Woods campaign, it's really important that we understand that the struggle that Desi was facing was not about resisting a patriarchy necessarily, but it was about struggling against colonial violence. And we have to really reframe the question of power in this colonial context of resources and who has access to resources. And a lot of the women that were trying to reframe what Desi Woods was experiencing, or feminism itself is something that turned its back on African women. So a lot of women or people that identify with feminism will come into this movement, and I can even attest to that myself, from a feminist background, and not realize that we're separating African women from African men the way that slavery has done. So it's not so much a woman's right to self-defense as it is, there are no women in general. There are women of the oppressor nation, and there are women who are oppressed by the oppressor nation. So the white left really wanted to make this about gender, and gender is something that came with colonial power. And the white left historically cannot parse for violence for its connection to colonialism. It protects class interests. Feminism is bourgeois. So a lot of this concept of feminism has always been petty bourgeois. It's founded and centered in liberal ideology. To call it white feminism would be redundant because feminism inherently is white. Intersectionality or intersectional feminism is there's only really a marginal difference between the two. I come from an intersectional feminist background, and I really thought that intersectionality informed my awareness of power or privilege, when it actually it actively shields us from looking at the colonial reality, the colonial question. There's really no way to reform a system that rests on a foundation of genocide and slavery. It has to be completely dismantled. And intersectional feminist really just protects the interests of bourgeois white feminists, because you know, if feminists really cared about all women or cared about Desi Woods, then where are they? Then why are so many African and Indigenous children stolen by the CPS system, and why don't feminists care about that? Or why are so many feminists willing to step over the bodies of African and Indigenous men to sit at the colonizer table with other white men to have white men's rights? Patriarchy is a symptom of colonialism. There is no such thing as women in general, like I said. The idea that all women are oppressed by patriarchy is a false concept that obscures the colonial question, right? The way that African and Indigenous women experience oppression or sexism or rape culture is completely different from the way that women navigate that world. And anything that we do experience as white women is just a reflection of that deeper violence that we have shielded ourselves from, or that we have actually actively tried to secure men who rape and molest children and say that they don't. And so again, if feminism is so connected to women, then why isn't the question of colonization a part of feminism? So a theory without practice is dead, therefore feminism is dead. And that leads us back to why this is such an incredible article, because everything that we do as African internationalists is a theory and practice. Paying reparations is really important, but it's not just about cutting a check. It's really an embodied practice. Do you want to add anything, or should I keep going?
Well, I just really wanted to appreciate what you were saying there, because, I mean, what you're saying is exactly, I really want to appreciate the point where you're saying, like, it's shielding, like, the real colonial, like the anti-colonial critique of feminism, of white, you know, so-called white feminism, is that it shields white people from the question of power and resources. It shields them from the responsibility of you know, colonial genocide. It shields them into some equating of oppression with colonized people, some we're all women, one woman, you know, type thing. And, you know, intersectionality, like you said, you know, is another defense against having to answer the colonial question. Like, intersectionality is another way to, like, bury the colonial question.
Uhuru. And it's really dangerous too, because we have to realize as white women that we are using feminism, we're using sexual violence actually as a tool against African people, against African men. And this whole resurgence of, like, self-care culture, I've started to question. I mean, that came out of that came from African women, self-care, because this is a society that oppresses African people. And like, I got really into this culture of self-care, and I realized that, like, so much of, like, self-care that we talk about in our white communities is really just basic stuff around, like, drinking water and eating and, like, sleeping and, like, really basic things. And I think that we get kind of like into this victim place. And I feel like that's what intersectionality can be sometimes, is like this place of just not having accountability, just refusing to see the material reality that actually white women, I mean, we basically have the rights of white men. At this point, we're approaching having those rights, and it's completely overshadowing the real God, I can't even remember what do we call it? Me Too movement, whatever.
But
so
yeah, I mean, what you're talking about, like as a materialist, as an African internationalist, is like, what do you do? What is your actual practice?
Right.
You know? Like, what do you actually say and do in your life? And accountability, I mean, this is like, you know, I just want to, of course, just say, I don't know in how many ways I can emphasize as the party is like, it's our leadership and the leadership of the international African revolution. It is absolutely, indisputably the vanguard of the struggle to defeat US imperialism and parasitic capitalism. It is the vanguard advanced detachment of the African working class that is necessary to overturn colonialism. And so the Desi Woods campaign, you know, is symbolic of that, because it's also the symbolic of the founding of the African People's Solidarity Committee. Like, there's a way out of being caught in the fallacies of white feminism and subscribing to, you know, a white nationalist ideological understanding. That is what happens in like feminism and anarchism, for sure. That we have to like know, like, you know, people need to know that like the African People's Socialist Party is like the correct leadership. It's the forefront of all resistance and struggles, the extension of the Marcus Garvey United Negro Improvement Association movement. It's an African internationalism is irrefutable. It's materialist. It's science. Like, we have to live the revolutionary theory. And it's all, you know, it's the correct contextualization and framing of the question is around dual and contending Black power, about power and resources. And so much of like the white left, and, you know, I know that you want to just say, certainly you want to speak on anarchism. You know, so many of those questions are really just lived out in the headspace of people's, you know, personal conceit. So, you know, this is the theory of practice. And yeah, Uhuru, we just want to appreciate our leadership. Chairman Amalia Letulle, Deputy Chair Onizane Letulle of the African People's Socialist Party, Deputy Chair, has, you know, brought the chairman's, you know, vision of the future of a liberated African territory economy, you know, the right of African people to feed, house, and clothe themselves into the reality of the Black Power blueprint. So, you know, like there's no other program on the planet that is doing that. There is no other leadership on the planet that has solved the role of the oppressor, of the colonizer question. Like, can you take a principled stance of solidarity? It's material, it's reparations. It's not a charity stance. I'm not buying like diaper formula. I'm trying to through joining USM and being a part of USM and helping to build the culture of reparations under the correct leadership. I'm doing this to be a part of the African Revolution that overturns colonialism forever. I'm not, and that's the opportunity that the African People's Socialist Party has created. And it's an honor to be a part of building the reparations, necessary to shift the economic basis of oppression to one that is truly can contend colonialism. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Thank you, Valerie. Yeah, this is really the place for feminists, and I wish that more feminists would come this way. I think that I've a lot of maybe what we experience as people in the world in a female body is sexism And ever since I've been in this movement, I've been able to cultivate like real like relationships with healthy boundaries with men, and sort of, I don't know, to me that's a healing experience that I didn't experience outside of this movement, which is ironic. And it is such an honor to be a part of this movement, and it's even more of an honor to be in Oakland, where like the hub of Black Power was in the 1950s and the 1960s. It's like amazing that there's an Uhuru Pies institution here, that we have Uhuru furniture here. I mean, this is really like, if you want to do reparations work, like we have those institutions here for people to get involved in. And that's, I mean, that's theory and practice, is doing the work, being around people, doing the political education. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of the party in Oakland. I didn't even, I mean, I knew vaguely when I moved to the Bay Area that Oakland was where the Black Panthers of my life. Had no idea what the Uhuru House was, and I don't even, I maybe did a few times, but I think that's the experience of a lot of people in Oakland, is that there's really not a grasp of what Uhuru is. So in 1966, Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale formed the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense in Oakland, and they practiced militant self-defense against the state and fought to establish revolutionary socialism. A lot of people don't understand how much of the groundwork was led by women, and how the program that the U.S. government has like basically stolen the free lunch program that was started by the Black Panthers. They had like a free food program, and I mean, I think they support that the government doesn't provide. And then they had the Black Panther newspaper, and COINTELPRO, or the FBI's counterinsurgency program against Black Power and its leaders, was successful in a pretty big way in discrediting the positive and humane work that was put into place by the Black Panther Party. The war on drugs was fabricated. The crack epidemic was meant to completely destroy and discredit African working class communities. Just like feminism is designed to shield petty bourgeois women of the left to believe that patriarchy, men are the enemy, equating patriarchy and men with the African and not white men, time and again stepping over the bodies of African women to destroy African men and sit at the colonial table with white men and have the rights of the colonizer. And I don't want, I mean, it really who Huey was in a lot of ways. So I don't want to say that counterinsurgency was completely successful, but I see it every day in the Bay Area how counterinsurgency was successful. And it's frustrating because it has the effect where it just makes it easier for oh, it's that community's problem. They're on drugs, you know, they need, you know, to figure it out. And it's like, we really have to wrap our minds around counterinsurgency in Oakland. You really have to understand that we are brainwashed to perceive African and Indigenous people in this way, and centralize ourselves historically, and to just not be objective. And it's just like overwhelming the more that I connect with my direct African leadership here in Oakland and the Solidarity research, Solidarity forces here. Huey P. Newton passed the torch down to Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and in 1972, the African People's Socialist Party was formed. So amazing. Like I don't even think I've completely wrapped my brain around that. Like, it is such an honor to be in Oakland. APSP was able to bring Huey P. Newton back into political life in Oakland, bringing the people to his defense from erroneous charges associated with some fire at like a school. The that the Black Panthers were using, and it was most likely the U.S. government that did that. And upon his assassination in 1989, the party organized the masses to fight back against attempts by bourgeois colonial media to slander his name and to political revulsion and irrelevance. The APSP organized his funeral. They took care of his widow and led the spontaneous funeral march of thousands that accompanied his hearse in Oakland. It is the APSP that would define who Huey was and continues to. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how the APSP continues to define MLK, and that we have an MLK Day event coming up in January 21st, that we really need Oaklanders to get out to. Did you want to add anything, Val?
Well, again, yeah, I really wanted to appreciate the party's history in Oakland. I had the opportunity to be in Oakland for the unthanksgiving at the Uhuru House on that last Thursday of the month. And I also had the opportunity to sell and bake pies with Uhuru Pies for their campaign, 10,000 Pies for Black Power Blueprint. And just, you know, my own personal experience and my friends' personal experience in Oakland over the last decade and a half, seeing the rapid development and gentrification of East Oakland, where the Uhuru House is, Fruitvale, West Oakland, places in Oakland that I never thought would ever be taken by gentrification. I had no understanding of it, really, because from my perspective, like many white people, my perspective was that my artist friends were getting housing. You know, like that's where they were. They couldn't afford to live in San Francisco anymore. So everyone was moving to Oakland. And that was the perspective that I had as a white person. And that's why we have things like the Solidarity Spear Study, because, you know, like we can't come to these conclusions on our own. Like Chairman Omali Yeshitela, like, taught me everything about African internationalism, about colonialism. Like I went to school, I read plenty of books coming from the white academic left. I went to, you know, graduate school, you know, I considered myself, you know, to be well-read on theory, but, you know, as far as practice, completely vacant, like no understanding whatsoever. And it really isn't until you're a part of this work, you're a part of reparations in action, that you truly understand like the significance of like that you have to be a part of something concrete. You have to be under the correct organization. You have to be around people who have made a similar commitment to see something through, to take accountability, to be responsible, you know, and, you know, like this is this weekly Solidarity Spear Study, because this is how serious, like every single white person needs to understand that there is a way out of their complicity with parasitic capitalism. That they're, you know, like, yes, you are benefiting on the pedestal of colonialism right now, but it doesn't mean that like that's it. Like, oh, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, therefore I'm at the mall on Black Friday, you know, suplexing somebody for a toaster. I mean, I'm being funny, but it's not funny. It's not funny. It's like, you just don't understand. You don't understand the fate of colonized people. You don't understand life or death as the colonizer. You don't have the same understanding. Oppression will never be the same for you. Like, I know you wanted to talk about white anarchy, I mean, again, that's like another, you know, redundancy.
Yeah.
It's like I had said when we were talking about that, like white people have no perception of like the compounding of suffering of colonized people under anarchy. Like under like what they imagine a revolution to be like total destruction. Like the African working class must lead. There has to be a government, and the African People's Socialist Party is preparing to govern. Like the thought of like destroying structure for the sake of destroying structure, and then thinking about like, of course, white people would still be able to like live the best lives, you know, because they've hoarded all of the resources. What do you think, Rose?
Yeah, I mean, I know African and indigenous people who feel like anarchists are kind of scary. Like, it's just kind of like a lot of rage that doesn't, it's not really like it's the same righteous rage that like African people, non-white people feel towards the system. It's not the same rage that we align with in this movement as white people with our leadership. I mean, I'm probably going to go over talk about some of the things that I was going to say anyways, but later on. But I always was kind of really confused with anarchy because like I just noticed that like all the anarchists that I knew that were like not choosing me for housing because I wasn't cool enough or something had like cars in their parents' names and had like a lot of resources and a lot of support, and I just didn't really know what the hell they were mad about or what they were fighting about. And so I never really was in the whole anarchy thing. It just felt really confusing to me, and it felt really, the irony is that anarchy is supposed to be without hierarchy, but that's really all that I saw about it, was a lot of hierarchy and call out culture and the moral high ground, without like, which is just intersectionality and really isn't a moral high ground anyway. A lot of moral bankruptcy. I mean, yeah, I mean, I might as well kind of get into the structured speaking points here. I
just wanted to let you know that we're at 6:42. So we want to give enough time for all of the important events that we have coming up, and certainly want to let everybody on this channel know that this is the relationship that we have to the African Revolution is one of material practice. So this study returns $85 in resources to the African Revolution. That is our goal today. So if you appreciate this study, if you want to join the Uhuru Solidarity Movement in building the culture of reparations under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, you have to go to uhurusolidarity.org and let us know, because we are here to put you into this work, to bring you into this work, to bring you into immediately into making your life and returning your skills, your time, and your attention as resources to the African Revolution, so that, you know, if you are anti-imperialist, anti-colonialist white person, if you want to see colonialism overturned, if you want to see parasitic capitalism overturned, then you want to join Uhuru Solidarity Movement, and you want to be a part of building dual and contending power like the Black Power Blueprint, because the Black Power Blueprint is the proof that the African People's Socialist Party is the correct leadership. The Black Power Blueprint, the economic institutions for a liberated African economy that are comprised by Black Star Industries and by the Black Power Blueprint, the nonprofit work of the African People's Education and Defense Fund through the Black Power Blueprint, building the Uhuru House and Aquaba Hall Community Meeting Center, building the One Africa, One Nation marketplace, across the street from Aquaba Hall, and complete with like fruit orchards and an outdoor event venue that's going to be paved and have outdoor lighting. We have a 50-foot magnificent flagpole with a 25-foot red, black, and green African flag. Like, that is transforming North St. Louis. And then to have the Uhuru Pies, the new home of Uhuru Foods and Pies, the Uhuru Jigo Community Commercial Kitchen, Bakery and Cafe with the African Independence Workforce Training Program. I mean, the African People's Socialist Party is preparing to govern. The Black Power blueprint is proof that this is the correct leadership. So I would like everybody that's on the study today to put in whatever they can to see this Black Power blueprint be the most rapid victory of the party yet, so far rapidly advancing towards all of its victories. The Uhuru House was built in 7 months with the community coming together, rallying around the vision of African internationalism. This is creating a self-determined future of building dual and contending power. So the theory is a reality. It's reparations in action for white people. It's African internationalism in action, because that's what the revolutionary demand for reparations is building the revolution. And I wanted to take a look at some of our comments. Got Kristen Forthen returning $10. Thank you for the study. Rose, thank you for deepening the discussion on feminism, anarchy, and history of Oakland. Uhuru, Kristen. Uhuru, Evan, I can pledge to return $10 in stolen resources on Monday. Uhuru. So that's $20 off of our $85 goal of today's study. So we have $65 left on today's study goal, and $65 in the white community could be anything. And it's like, it's amazing what you will see things cost these days. $65 is like a turkey.
There's 11 people watching. If everyone gave $6 who's watching, we would.
Yeah, if everyone gave $6, we would meet our goal. The website is uhurusolidarity.org. And I know that our moderator is going to post that link in there, uhurusolidarity.org/donations/pay-reparations. Also, go to uhurusolidarity.org to learn more about the over 24 economic institutions of the African People's Socialist Party, so you can see exactly how reparations plays out in material difference for the real world, the real circumstances. And then these are programs that are led by and for the African working class. It's unlike any charity stance at all, because it's not charity at all. It's solidarity. It's saying, this is the world I want to live in, and this is what I'm being, and I'm sitting on a hoard of stolen resources and access to social capital. And I'm going to say no more genocide in my name, no more parasitic capitalism in my name. I'm not the beneficiary of colonialism anymore. By joining Uhuru Solidarity Movement, by returning reparations to the study. I want to salute Johan Bedingfield, our moderator. $25 on December 3rd. I will return. I sound like Yoda. Hello. Comment. That tremendous that is. That's beautiful. Okay, December 3rd. That's in 2 days. Very powerful. Okay, so that's $45 of our $85 goal. We are going for $85 today. That means there is $40 left. So that is almost nothing. We have 13 viewers. If we had 8 viewers give $5, we would reach our $85 goal for this study. And so our goal for each study is about $75, but we were $10 short on last week. So being that we are a party of revolutionary, or a part of a party of revolutionary practice, we are going to meet our goal every week. That is, we're meeting our pledge every month as the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. So for the Solidarity Spear Study, we're going to meet our goal no matter what. If the goal isn't met within that time frame, it gets rolled into the next week, because that's what the Uhuru Solidarity Movement does. It's not a charity stance. I want to say Uhuru to Diane Batiste from Costa Rica. Uhuru, Diane. Diane is such an incredible comrade in Costa Rica. I pledged $20 in stolen resources today. So that gets us down to the final $20 for our December 1st. It's the first of the month. December 1st, Solidarity Spear Study Live. We have the wonderful Rose of Uhuru Solidarity Movement in Oakland that's going to tell you more about organizing in Oakland and the events coming up. But I just wanted to say really quickly that we have in Oakland the ongoing through the end of December, through the Christmas holiday, the 10,000 Pie campaign event. We have the Giving Tuesday fundraiser campaign, which started last Tuesday, November 27th, that will be going through the end of the year. And we have in December, the Burning Spear newspaper 50th anniversary interview with Chairman Amalia Letulle. That is going to be a live webinar from St. Petersburg, Florida, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And celebrating that, sign up today for the December 2018 Burning Spears sales competition. So there's volunteer opportunities in Oakland and in St. Pete coming up. I will be in St. Pete from December 21st and 22nd, volunteering with Uhuru Foods and Pies in St. Pete. And I know that there is an event coming up on Martin Luther King Day that Rose will tell us about, which is how you can get involved in the Uhuru Solidarity Movement and all of the work there in Oakland.
Yeah, Uhuru. So I just want to say, you know, if you're watching from Oakland, you definitely owe reparations. So put something in, please. We need to join humanity. We are becoming calloused people. I think that we are becoming what people think New Yorkers are, when New Yorkers are a lot more connected to their humanity, in my opinion, after living there. We really need to be connected. I mean, it's like we do have to peace out. We don't want to see the tent cities. We don't want to see all the homelessness. We don't want to think about the fact that like our punk shows are at the expense of African people living on the block that is not ours. It's that Oakland is not ours. If you are a creative person, if you are a punk, if you are a queer, I don't really care how you identify. If you're living in Oakland, somewhere in Emeryville, if you just you need to reconnect with your feeling. Like, we check out, and it is a culture of abuse. It is a hierarchy of abuse. I mean, it's like we think techies are the problem. We want to spray paint on the sidewalk, you know, the techies, you know, queers hate techies, when we're leaving trash for families to walk home in. I mean, if it wasn't for us, Nia Wilson would still be alive, and she wasn't stabbed. Her throat was slit, and the news is not talking about that. So MLK Day is a really amazing event, and we're going to talk about a speech that MLK made before he was assassinated about reparations. We're going to talk about a speech he made about the Vietnam War. These are speeches that are not preferred to the I Have a Dream speech, because they're basically talking about African internationalism. So Monday, January 21st, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., we're going to be walking around Oakland and putting on people's doorknobs, like talking about Uhuru furniture and Uhuru pies. And we really want to center the work that we do here in Oakland around those institutions. And I really want to continue to reach out to people, white people in the Bay Area. All white people owe reparations. I don't care like what group or scene you identify with. You know, USM is really the spirit of Black power. This is the Bay Area. You know, you owe your life to this movement if you live in the Bay Area. I mean, like, that's how I feel, I mean, personally. And yeah, and then the pie campaign is going on until December. I'll be selling pies, but it's not just about like buying a pie from us. Like, please get involved in the volunteer work. Like, I know that maybe we have projects and we're organizing in different areas, but this is Black power, and Black lives have never mattered to the colonizer. Before Black lives can matter, Black power needs to matter. Uhuru.
Uhuru. And that's exactly what is the difference that we're trying to emphasize and we're trying to impress upon people. And so I do want to say Uhuru and Ketsia Walsh is from Oakland and just shared our live stream. So we want to say Uhuru and thank you for sharing our live stream to your timeline. And yeah, Ketsia says they are right across the street from Uhuru now. And so Walter Turner, a Black Panther, was my teacher at the College of Marin. He hosts Africa Today on KPFA. Well, Uhuru comrade. And then Johan Bedingfield says, joining USM and building a movement of reparations under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party is how we overturn all oppression rooted in the white colonial oppression of African people. It's an honest stance to overturn white opportunism. Opportunism deepens the oppression of African people. By opportunism, we're talking about feminism, anarchism, any sort of white workers-based European Marxism. Artists. So I was going to say Marxism, so we don't want to be redundant here. And you know, this is theory and practice. Theory is practice, and there are other things that we understand because of Chairman Amalia Letulle to be necessary conditions. Is that we have to understand the economic is the political, that the power is resources. So it's not just power and resources, it's power is resources. So dollars that are returned to the Solidarity Spear Study that are a stance of reparations from the white community and material solidarity with Black power and African liberation are bullets in the chest of colonialism, bullets in the chest of US imperialism. The $20 that's left for our goal today to reach $85, which means we will have returned, I don't have the math specifically, but if we return $75 for each of these spear studies, I don't know how many weeks we've had, but yeah, this is the potential for these resources to form the basis of African liberation. You know, they're doing nothing right now the longer they stay in the parasitic capitalist economy. You take those resources, they're kept within that, those resources are maintained within the African working class economy, community. It is a liberated economy from traditional parasitic capitalist exploitation. And, you know, it's not capitalism that you're supporting. So Uhuru Pies is like an amazing institution. It's unlike any other institution in the world. Volunteering is super fun and there's delicious pie involved and it doesn't get any better than that. So yeah, if you love pie and you love Black power, you should definitely volunteer in Oakland and St. Pete. December 20th through the 24th, is that right?
December 20th to the 24th. Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of pop-ups, but there will be outreach to do the whole month of December, like every weekend. We'll want to try to get people out on Saturday near the market, where we have the comfort foods, the Uhuru comfort foods. We want to have people continue to help make pies at the kitchen that we use in Alameda. And we want people to be available for the pop-ups in particular. That's really when we sell the most pies, is the week right before the holidays and the week of the holidays. And it's so much fun to do it. I loved doing it. You get to meet new people. It's so rewarding, the people that you meet in this work. But I just really want to say, you know, if you are against capitalism like this, you know, paying reparations is the most anti-capitalist thing that you can do. And there's so many of us that just, you know, we talk about capitalism and we don't like it, but, you know, reparations is like you said, Valerie, it's literally taking the money from our bank accounts. We sit on the pedestal of colonization and putting it in the hands of the people where it's been stolen from, who do all the work, where we get to sit on the wealth. And so many of us talk about being against these things, and we have to put it into practice. I mean, if you can only give 5 a month, like, that's great. You know, or if you can only give 10, that's great too. You know, monthly giving, active giving is really great, because then our institutions can really sort of allocate funds where they need to be, and you become a member and you get like an orientation, and then you can sort of initiate like your political education and your activism and grow as an activist. And like, that's like how Oakland needs to be again. Like, you know, it's like we're so into our intersectionality and our Berkeley and stuff, and you know, and talking about this and that, and I declare this and that, and I don't, and who's the racist and who's the transphobic person, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, well, we don't even put anything into action. We're just sort of like creating this BS hierarchy, trying to find out who the problem is. And it's like, we are the problem. We are the parasite, and we can commit national suicide, meaning you can really confront your whiteness, kill it, and reconnect with humanity. And yeah, you're still white, so you're killing the colonist on the inside. You're killing your what, you know, how would you say that? Like, we're brainwashed, so we're like coming out of it. I get so passionate when I think about all of the personal transformations that I've been through. And then I went to Congress, and like, that was amazing. And, you know, this is like, it's like, you know, you come into this movement because you love African internationalism, and you're sick and tired of feeling guilty, or whatever you feel as a white person, all of these things that we're tired of, that maybe we can't ignore anymore. And it's like, you get the opportunity to reconnect with other people who are thoughtful and have depth, because they've confronted themselves and held themselves accountable and given other people. I mean, the party, we're submitted under the party. Like,
and it's because of the party's leadership that we're able to like make a self-criticism, you know, to take ourselves out of the center and our feelings out of the center, and to say, hey, I did something wrong. Like, I was aligned with things that are obviously fucked up. Like, nobody's perfect, you know? Like, right. Like, one of my favorite things, you know, that one of my comrades says is that the, you know, root contradiction for us as white organizers, that we're white, you know? It's like, nobody's perfect, but you have the ability to make this self-criticism. And we come from a culture where, like, we would never on our own make this type of self-criticism on the pedestal of colonialism. Without the leadership of the African working class, we would never be able to make a self-criticism the way that it needs to be made, and to like properly understand reparations. And so, you know, we're from this culture of where like nobody can admit that they're wrong. Like, our high school textbooks that we give children are like incredibly false and skewed and disturbing. Like, it's been known for over half of a century, like how distinctly the culture reinforces, you know, like we talk about it in the school system, like how all of that is reinforcing this colonial imperialist narrative. You know, before they didn't have school boards, but now they have school boards to ensure that the colonial imperialist narrative is like shoved down everybody's throat, and that African people are criminalized, colonized people are criminalized. And that's, you know, I'm personally going to return $10 in reparations to this study, leaving $10 left of our $85 goal. It is 7:04.
I got that. I got the last $10.
And Rose is going to match me. And I want to appreciate everybody who returned resources towards this very important SPEAR study. I want to call on everybody in Oakland to join the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, and to volunteer with Uhuru Foods and Pies and the Uhuru MLK Day coming up in January. Make sure if you're a college student, you have cleared your weekend schedule, Order your pies at
Great.
uhurupies.org. Support the Black Power Blueprint. Sell the Burning Spear. burningspearmarketplace.com. Katsia, Uhuru Katsia, you want to work on public education. Well, Comrade Rose in Oakland is a teacher. So I want you and Rose to get in touch with each other. Uhuru, thank you. Uhuru, Rose, thank you so much. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.